All right, we are going to call this meeting to order. First item, election of the chairperson.
Nominate Andrew Lawrence as chairperson.
I'll need a second, if that's okay. I was disciplined about that a few times. And then any other nominations? With that, is there a motion to move close nominations?
And cast the unanimous ballot.
Now we need a second.
Second.
I'll second
After
that.
that, we need a second.
And we move to a second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Introduction of the parliamentarian, we have Olivia.
We have Dr. Hill.
We have Dr. Hill. That's right, I saw that had
What?
changed. Sorry about that. Yeah, Dr.
Been a
Hill.
long time since we had a doctor. Parliamentary.
Well, that speech and debate experience will help me out, so here we go.
Please correct us often. We're going to designate the district clerk to keep official minutes. Dana? Designate you or Beth, or who would like to keep official minutes? Dana?
Dina, but I got you back.
Okay, perfect. Reports. We have the treasurer's report, Matt.
Yeah, treasurer's report 2425. Total district receipts consisting of local property taxes, $9,849,283.22, about 42% of our budget. State sources of $11,095,506.73, 47%. Federal sources, we have $2,115,049.44 for 9%. And other sources, $411,199.96, 2% of our budget there. So total district expenditures consisting of salaries and benefits, we're at $14,300,484,046, 40% of our budget, or of our expenditures, sorry. And purchased services, $15,069,486.74, 42% of our expenditures there. Supplies and capital objects, $3,365,924.91, 9%. And we had a debt service of $2,940,820.69, 8% of our expenditure there. And then insurance and other costs of $431,840.41 for 1%.
Thank you. Next, we have the clerk's report. Dana?
Okay, I'm just gonna summarize the clerk's report, listed in the meeting agenda here, or annual report. The board was pleased to accept approximately $49,276 in donations during the 24-25 school year. The Viroqua community continues to provide additional support to our students through contributions from booster clubs, parent organizations, local businesses, and individuals. On April 1st, our community provided the non-reoccurring operational referendum that was on the ballot for Viroqua area schools. The funds provided for this referendum will allow Viroqua area schools to make investments that will benefit our students for years to come. The school board and administration are incredibly appreciative for the support extended by our community and for their engagement in the months leading up to the election day and of the continued community support for our schools and students. As far as superintendent search, we have now Dr. Jeremy Hill, district administrator, who was hired as of July 1st of 2025. And in other board information, in April, Sarah Wedwick and Angie Lawrence are elected as board members, and we continue to have data workshops and board linkages based on the strategic plan.
For that. I should have stated at the beginning, there is an annual report. If anybody wants more information, it is in the annual report that's out tonight. District administrator's report is next. Jeremy,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
welcome.
Just to not not cover everything that Dana covered too, but just to add a couple other pieces, we have completed the projects from our November 22nd referendum. As Chris will talk about a little bit later, there was some extra funds, and so we are continuing to work on some of those capital projects that we can pay for from that referendum. Dana talked about our operational referendum that passed in April. And I just want to remind everybody that we're still continuing to work on those 6 strategic pillars that this board and the administrative team worked on last year. And you can see on page 13 of the annual report document, those 6 are kind of bulleted there in the middle. School pride, finance, facilities and operations, community connections, diversity, equity and inclusion, future and career readiness, and wellness, those 6 pillars that as a school district we believe are important for our students as well as for our staff and stakeholders. The high school, middle school, and elementary co-lab teams continue to work to incorporate those 6 ideals into everything that they do. I had the pleasure today of sitting with Shayna and her team to go through a BAM's governing council meeting, and Kim was there as well. And I appreciate that invitation and the opportunity to look at the unique offerings of our school district. I think that there are so many different pathways in the Viroqua area schools for kids to be successful. And that is something that we should celebrate. That is something that we should continually explore, and that is something that we should protect. And so I look forward to doing that. Just a last little tidbit to share with you. Viroqua area schools is named one of the top 100 school districts in the state of Wisconsin, and our high school and middle school rank in the top 25% of middle schools and high schools in the state. That is all I have.
Thank you. And welcome.
Thank you.
The next item is the minutes from the 23-24 annual meeting.
I move to accept the 23-24 annual meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Remember, this is a whole community vote, also, it's not the
Yeah, you
board,
guys can
just
vote
to make everyone engaged here. We have a presentation of the proposed budget and other posted from the Benefits Trust annual report from Chris. Rozeski next.
All right, you've got your packet. This will start on page 20. So please bear with me with the code. If there's something you can't hear me say, please speak up. So we're going to work through, this is our preliminary budget. It's been published in the Bryan County Times and was previously approved by the board. The structure of the way this looks is you've got description off to the left, our audited 23-24 financials is the second column, estimated unaudited figures for 24-25, and then the preliminary budget for 25-26, and that's the column that we're going to be working in. So the one on the far right, I'll just kind of highlight some pieces of that as we go through. We estimating a beginning fund balance of in Fund 10 of $3,965,110.39, with a budgeted surplus, an ending fund balance. An ending fund balance of $3,989,189.39, which is a surplus of $24,079. As we step down, the first section here covers revenues. You can see under local sources, source code 210, property tax, estimated property tax levy of $5,419,845. Total subtotal for local sources of $5,520,345. 340, source 340 is our open enrollment in. It's 1,198,202 for the total in that section of 1,203,102. Skip a little bit further down into our state sources. A big number in that section is our equalization aid that we received from the state, estimating that to be $9,163,162 for the 25-26 school year. Please note in that section, there was no increase in the state budget to equalization aid. Moving down to 690, that's our per pupil aid that we receive from the state as well. That's $958,724. Total state sources, $10,485,962. Jumping down to federal sources, the related items and Medicaid. We've, since the finalization of this preliminary budget, have received our allocations for Title II and Title IV. There was a period of time in which we were unsure as to whether we were going to get those for this coming school year, but they have been allocated, so the $37,175 is actually going to go up. Will be finalized when we finalize our budget in October. Title I funds under line 750 are $349,833. Total federal sources of $502,008. You can see year over year, over the last 3 years, there's been large reductions in the amount in that area, mainly due to ESSER funds. So the reduction is a result of that. Jumping down to line 860, $443,600 is revenue from the sale of 3 buses. On to page 21. Highlight total revenues here, $17,970,517. And then jump into expenditures for Fund 10, total for instruction for the year, $7,917,719. Support services, $5,495,864. And then non-program transactions, the first being interfund transfers, which is going to be our transfer from Fund 10 into Fund 27 to cover expenditures there. Also, expenditures in Fund 95 and 99 are co-op programs. So that totals $1,767,407. And then next line down totals $2,767,448. That consists of our open enrollment out estimation of $1,571,876,000 and our voucher estimate, voucher payment estimate of $1,089,985. Total expenditures in Fund 10 are estimated to be $17,948. Sorry, $438. That's Fund 10. Fund 21, we will likely have in 25-26 revenues and expenditures similar to probably 23-24. Numbers were a little higher last year, largely due to our band trip last year. So numbers generally are larger there, and this encompasses their activity accounts. Jumping down to Fund 27, the one number that we can see here is our transfer from our general fund of $1,595,911. This is a reduction over some prior years and is largely the result of the increased reimbursement rate that was provided in the past state budget. So that will go up to 42% this year. It had been 33% last year, although it was only funded at about just over 30%. We're budgeting it at 39%, not the full 42. Flipping over to page 22, skipping down to 610, so that's the state categorical aid. That's that increase that we saw from the state budget to what we're budgeting 39%. So hoping to get in that additional 9% there. That ends up being $987,032. Federal sources, jumping down, IDEA grant funds, $349,833,000, and then Medicaid of 103,500. Total revenues from Fund 27 are $276. And then expenditures for Fund 27, $2,290,356 for instruction, support services. Total is $619,224. And then some instructional service payments of $134,696 to total $3,044,276. And see that revenues and expenses do match up in 2027 as part of my statute. Fund 38, Fund 39 are debt service funds. We currently only have funds in Fund 39, which are referendum approved debt. 38 is non-referendum approved debt. We're anticipating our regular long-term capital debt payment of $1,582,250. So our total revenues in that area, sorry, I missed a line, of $1,609,750,000, and then the associated expenditures of $1,583,250. Capital projects funds, we've got funds in what we call Fund 42, and then Fund 46. Fund 46 is our capital projects trust fund, and then the remainder in Fund 42 are the funds remaining from capital projects. The breakout of that is roughly $500,000 and $1.7 million. There is a large portion of the amount remaining in Fund 42 that does actually to be repaid to the IRS. So we're not able to realize all of those funds that have been expenditure in the future. We are anticipating expenditures of roughly $1 million to do various different capital projects throughout, smaller capital projects throughout the district during the school year. Food Service Fund, Fund 50, total revenues expected to be $669,888, and with total expenditures of $751,712. Community Service Fund, Fund 80, anticipating revenues of $1.1 million, and total expenditures of $1,109,559. Please note that there is no longer any debt held or due in Fund 80, and that was all paid off in 24-25. And then working down to our package cooperative programs, funds 91 through 99. These funds also need to balance out similar to Fund 27, expecting revenues there of about $228,496, expenditures of the same amount. Over to page 24. This is our proposed, preliminary proposed tax levy. We'll work through the middle column here and explain some of the variances. This will be set in late October. Our current proposed general fund operating levy is $5,352,946. That is an increase of approximately $643,753 from the prior year. The bulk of that is the increase of $750,000 from the operating referendum that was passed in April this year. Our debt service levy, as we step down at $1,564,750, that's to cover our debt payments for the coming year. And then the community service fund levy of $400,000, you can see a large decrease there. That's because we did shift our levy from the debt service levy into community service fund levy last year to use some fund balance in Fund 39 on the referendum debt side that allowed us to then be able to pay off our debt related to community service fund. So that equals a total school levy of $7,317,696. That's an increase of $341,365. Percentage wise, that's 4.89% increase. Equalized value, historically, we've always reported the equalized value for the coming year, same as it was the prior year. I made a decision not to do that because we do get a very good estimate this time of year as to where our equalized value is going to land. And relatively accurate, it comes from season 6. So I've included that number there to give an idea of where our mill rate will fall. That equalized value increase is estimated at 13.23%. That'll be, should that end up being the case, that'll be the 4th year in a row where we've seen double-digit increases in equalized value, which, as we get into one of the graphs, you can see the effect on the mill rate and what happens there as well. So again, flip forward, I won't spend too much time on the graphs. Just there another reference, some anticipated revenues and expenditures and kind of where one of those pieces fall in relation to some of the other areas that we track. You can see on the expenditure side, salaries and benefits, again, make up the vast majority of our total expenditures. And flipping pages on page 26, you can see our current estimate of membership for September. The final count for September membership is actually this coming Friday, third Friday count, so we'll get an accurate number there as we move forward. And then the state equalization aid, you can see the increases that we've seen there. We'll get that final number on the 15th of October. The last 2 years have been elevated because of the construction project. So funds that we've expended there, we received some aid on those. That's why the numbers are a little bit higher. And then on to page 27, you can see the mill rate and the direction that that's gone. As I explained before, the large increases in the equalized value are in large part due to or the result of the mill rate decreasing over that period of time. Last piece here is our other post-employment benefit and trust annual report. You can see at the beginning of the year, total plan assets were $2,157,186.03. Funds receipted were actually a negative this year. I will explain that in a moment. Received interest and a change in value of $220,773.39. Funds dispersed, total plan asset reduction of $7,746.41. That's essentially our fee costs. Historically, our contributions match our expenditures for our OPEB. We were directed not to contribute the full amount this year because the fund is overfunded. As a result, we still needed to show an expenditure. So that money was moved into our capital projects fund this year. Yeah.
Thank you. So the hearing on the proposed budget? Questions?
Lots of numbers. Yeah, page 23, debt service fund. What happened there are long-term general obligations that went down significantly. Is that because of the payoff of the early learning center, or am I just guessing?
Sorry, where were you going?
On page 23, total revenue towards the top debt service fund, 289. Other long-term general obligation debt. It
Oh,
went
that's the payoff of the
early learning center.
Yeah.
And support services, the next fund, grouping down, 200. We went from 7 million to 12 million, now to $1 million.
Correct. That was the expending of the funds from the capital project.
Any other questions?
I think I'll pass.
Anybody else? Questions? Thank you, Chris. The adoption of the proposed tax levy is the next item.
I move to approve a resolution to authorize the Board of Education to establish the tax levy up to the full amount allowed under the state imposed revenue limits as is necessary to support the district.
Is there a second? I'll second. Motion to approve? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone disapprove? Motion carries. New business, setting the salaries for the school board members. Is there a motion? I'll make the motion. I'll move to approve the 25-26 Board of Education salaries at the same level as they are, as they were last year. And with that, is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion?
They've been the same for so long.
I think they've been the same ever since I've been on the board.
Maybe since I don't know.
Same.
You would be the memory, Robert.
Exactly.
But you go 30 years, multiply it by $1,600, that's quite a bit of money.
You saved it up.
I donated some back.
Oh, yeah, that's.
All in favor, vote by saying aye. Opposed? The next item is the authorization of board members' expenses. Is there a motion?
I data move that the Board of Education members be paid their actual and necessary expenses when traveling and performance of duties as board members, and reimbursement for any actual loss of earnings not to exceed $75 per day when required by his or her duties as a board member to be absent from his or her regular employment.
Good.
Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Authorization of disposal of surplus school property is the next topic.
Move that the Board of Education be authorized to sell any property belonging to and not needed by the school district.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, set the annual meeting date or authorize the board to set the 25-26 annual meeting date. Is there a motion?
I, Matt Tubin, move to set the 25-26 annual meeting date to be held September 21st, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dana.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Other new business that the electors are explicitly authorized by law to address during the annual school district meeting. With that, motion to adjourn.
So, second.
And all in favor?
Aye.